Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And I'm so happy to have our next guest here with us today, running for the State Board of Education in Ward 2, the DC State Board of Education in Ward 2. We have the one, the only, I don't know why I'm saying the one and the only, but we have Allister Chang here with us. Thank you so much, Allister. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you today?
I am doing well. I'm doing
Very
well.
good.
Let's begin with, telling me a little bit about your background and why you decided to run this year.
Sure thing. So it's my first time running for office, so I'm particularly appreciative of your help to share my information.
Hmm.
And I'm running for the Ward 2 seat on the DC State Board of Education. So a bit about my background. My parents immigrated to DC from Taipei, and they invested every penny they earned into my education. So my life's work has been to connect every student with similar opportunities. And though my father couldn't teach me how to read, he connected me to the people who could, the teachers and mentors afforded to me by a strong public school education. And it is this education and the support from my community that really changed my life. So I'm running for the SBOE in order to connect every student to the holistic support systems to which my father and my mother worked relentlessly to provide me access. And in particular, I'm really interested in literacy. And for me, I define literacy not only as the capacity to read proficiently, but also digital literacy, information literacy, financial literacy, health literacy, cultural literacy, and environmental literacy, right? The capacity to navigate the world.
Wow, wow. I like that. I like that. Very important, very important. Tell me in Ward 2, what do you see as the the biggest issues or the biggest things that you might want to tackle if elected to the state board of education?
Sure. So I'll start with some context, and I'll ask you a quiz question, actually. What percentage of students do you think in DCPS and public charter schools come from Ward 2?
What percentage from Ward 2?
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know. Is it like I'm less than 10%,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the fewest number of students
Oh,
on
wow.
board. We make up
Wow.
under 2% of the entire DCPS and public charter school population. And our schools also serve the fewest number of students of any ward. We make up only 1,755 students out of the whole city's 91,322 students, right? And there are only 3,863 students that come to study in our ward. And I think what that means is that there are very few voters in Ward 2 who actively engage directly in the education system. So if you're watching this and you're not directly engaged with schools in DC and you're a Ward 2 voter, you are like the vast, vast, vast majority of Ward 2 voters. And I think what that means is that if you share my belief that public education provides the foundation for our democracy and our economic growth, I actually need your help to advocate for students, right? It's not just the small percentage of families who engage in the education system that need to be advocating for our students, especially in Ward 2. So, for me, at the very macro level, I think the pathway I see to advancing education equity, especially in Ward 2, right, is to activate more Ward 2 voters, to hold our elected officials accountable for the city's education outcomes. They are the ones that hold the statutory powers on deciding our education budget, hiring, firing the chancellor, deciding when schools open or close. And to make changes to our local education, we must first start by educating and organizing Ward 2 voters. So for me, the first thing I will do on the SBOE is to support the ongoing development of a Ward 2 education network, a Ward 2 education newsletter, connecting Ward 2 students, parents, educators, and community members to share critical information and to work together to advocate for education.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now tell me, we're going through a pandemic, so tell me how this ongoing pandemic has tell me the ways or the most important ways you've seen it affect the education system right now, and what changes or what adaptations may need to be made so that the school year, as well as the upcoming one next year, is is able to function even better than it is this year if the pandemic should continue.
Mhm. So I think that the pandemic is forcing us to adapt everything, right? And to me, this gives us a really interesting and unique opportunity to address our short-term challenges in ways that address our long-term capacities, right? So formerly, I was the executive director of a DC-based education nonprofit called Libraries Without Borders. And I have had experience working with city, state, and national governments to close the digital divide, right? I've been working on this for quite some time. And the pandemic provides us with an opportunity to structurally improve how we integrate education technologies. So yes, I'm committed to expanding digital equity in DC and will support DC's ongoing efforts to achieve this one-to-one student device ratio, right? But for me, it's not just about the hardware. I think I'm committed to, yes, working with parent-led advocacy groups like Digital Equity and DC Education, long-term, right, to ensure that we learn from the pandemic to build sustainable processes for onboarding students, parents, and educators to ever evolving, right, technologies, and they're changing faster and faster. I also believe it's really important for us to strengthen early learning opportunities. The pandemic is estimated to force 20% of DC's childcare centers and homes to close, according to the DC Early Learning Collaborative. And I recently co-wrote an article in the Georgetowner with early education expert Kat Kemp about how the pandemic has been infecting early learning programs, even in Ward 2, right, a relatively wealthy ward. And I want to continue advocating for increased investments in early learning opportunities, because I think it's the right thing to do. And I think the research shows that such investments are some of the most cost-effective ways to improve education outcomes and to close the achievement gap. I also think that the pandemic gives us a really interesting opportunity to improve the ways we analyze and collect data, right? So because of the pandemic, it's thrown a lot of our data collection into disarray. And this is a really interesting opportunity for us to reflect on how we do it, right? So according to OSCE's 2019 report, a school's overall star rating has a close relationship with a percentage of its students that are considered at risk. What that means is that the top rated schools right now tend also to serve students who come from wealthier families. And I think right now we have a really interesting opportunity to dig into that data to ensure that we're not penalizing schools for educating students who come from at-risk backgrounds, right? We need to deepen our understanding of how schools are not only are actually helping students to learn and grow, for example, by attributing more weight in the data to student improvement instead of just the final test scores alone.
Wonderful, wonderful. All righty, now tell me, why, especially this year, is it important to vote, especially on the local level?
Yeah, I mean, look at how many people are running for office this year, right? I think many of us are really frustrated and scared, actually, of what's happening at the federal level. And we know that one of the ways to get involved and really help is to get involved at the local level. So I'm delighted to see how many people have been, like me, kind of running for office for the first time, right? And
Yes.
that's really exciting to me. And I think we're having a really interesting, this is really energizing the way that we're talking about these issues, and for me, advocating for education equity.
Very important, very important. Now, if our viewers would like to, keep up with you, follow you, or support your campaign, how could they go ahead and do that?
Sure. My website is Allister, Allister, the number 4, Ward, and the number 2.com. And I'm on Twitter at Allister Chang.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Allister, for coming here and taking the time to share your views and your platform with us. And we wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.